What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. We are here for episode 11 of State of Affairs, and we are joined today by JF, Jean-François Gariepy, um, author of
Said
the
that with a nice
Revolution.
accent.
Yeah, I got it from JF, so from listening to his show. Author of the Revolutionary Phenotype. Um, Probably, I mean, if you're watching the show, I assume most people know who JF is. So, but if not, I'll let him do an intro for himself. But probably one of the most lied about people on the internet, I would say. Um, I've been a fan of your work since about 2017. So this is a pretty cool moment for me to be able to talk to you, man. But yeah, if you want to intro yourself and tell people where to find you, and then we can just kind of see where it goes.
Well, I'm Jean-François Gariepy, author of The Revolutionary Phenotype, which is available on Amazon. A theory of the emergence of life is what TRP is. I wrote it and published it in 2018, and I'm a commentator on current affairs at JFG Tonight on Rumble.
Awesome, man. Yeah, big fan of your show. I try to catch it every night, a couple times I miss it, but it's a great show. I would highly recommend everyone check it out. But yeah, we want to jump right in. I mean, kind of where I wanted to get started. So on this show, we cover some current events here and there, but for the most part, most of our content is geared towards gender dynamics, gender relations, race, but kind of a meta conversation about race. Um, and it's geared more towards that rather than the daily news. So through listening to your work, one of the most, I think some of the most prescient stuff you have to say is in regards to gender relations. And I think we could probably start here. I have a clip from your show. I think it was last week. Um, or actually, no, let's not start there. Let's go with the simp thing first. Um, One thing I kind of wanted to run by you and ask you, we talk a lot about simps on this show. And I think it might be helpful if we kind of define the terms first. So how would you, JF, define a simp? And then I think from there, I kind of wanted to go into what is the pathology of the simp and what causes the simp and what effect do they have on society? I think we could probably start there and kind of branch out from there. So I guess define it and then we can talk about what impact it has on society.
Yeah, I would say a simp is a man who plays an asymmetric game in the dating world where he delivers services, praise, and adoration to women without making sure that he gets back from the relationship. And so he's on the pearly giving mode. He has abdicated, even representing his own self interest into any sort of relationship. And therefore, he gives, and in the current world, well, he gets taken from.
Okay. I think that's a
Yeah,
very
that's a pretty good definition.
yeah, it's asymmetrical. So he's giving and giving. Um, so I think that's a perfect way to start. I think that's a great definition. So what I would say, as far as the societal impact of the simp goes, um, female behavior should be corrected by men in general. When women are acting, as we see modern women today, acting like whores, um, the typical behavior of a TikTok girl, I think we could probably boil it down to that. The role of the man in society should be to basically shame that behavior and weed that kind of behavior out. But what I see the simp is doing, and I think there's a parallel with race here. What you see a lot in the black community, for example, is you will have black behavior run amok. You will have stealing from stores. You will have the culture we're all familiar with. But famously, if you go to any comment section of a video of black misbehavior, you will see a litany, a cacophony of people saying, well, that ain't really a problem. That ain't really you have,
Context question mark.
yeah, context. You have black people dancing on the stage during their graduation, throwing their cap in the air and doing backflips, and you'll get a black person in the comments saying, Well, I mean, they just happy they graduating, man. Come on, man. And there's
Their
always like an
moment.
excuse. Yeah, it's their moment. It's always there's always an excuse. And I kind of see that as like racial simpery, but with the gender thing, the simp is always there to tell women that the behavior is not their fault, or not even not their fault, but that it's not a problem. How dare you worry about her body count? What are you, an incel? Um, so I was kind of curious about what do you think the impact of the simp is at large? So I think we've defined it, but what do you think that has an effect? What effect do you think that has on gender relations?
Well, you started with men should control women, but that's even further than we need to go to understand what's happening. I would first start with men have, in fact, in effect, controlled woman behavior traditionally, almost forever, and almost everywhere. And religion being one of the ways in which men got together, created memes to control women. And if you go into an Arab nation right now, you'll see the state of thing. In effect, it's really what's happening right now. So we in the West are the only society that has decided to unleash the creative power of the woman into whatever she wants. And that was a game when in biology you have constraints. So let's say the squirrel. Let's get out of gender dynamics just to clear our mind and see how it works. The squirrel. The squirrel has constraints. If he's seen by an eagle, he may get caught by the eagle. If he's not seen by anyone, he may not be seen by a mate and therefore may not reproduce. So you have a range of possibilities. I need to be seen a little bit, but I need to be not too seen because there's predators. Now, transfer this to gender dynamics. The female behavior has been under such control that they didn't have to evolve particularly good decision making, because you can have the entire life of a female can be managed by society from birth to just minimal levels of education and reproductive years starting at 15, 16. A society that is healthy will manage that life so that she doesn't have a crack whore phase where she wants to have tattoos or she wants to revolt against the gender binary or against the patriarchy. So societies like Arab societies master this very well and inseminate women very young.
Okay.
Now, when you unleash a degree of liberty with biology, the problem is you have an absolutely unevolved system here. The system of decision making of women in a traditional society did not have to be right. And so it didn't matter whether the female had these drives to think of the world in a way that's parallel to reality, in a way where she lies to herself, self-deludes, and entertains false allegations against others because no one would believe her and therefore it wouldn't affect her life. And if there was enough decision-making power in the males around her, she would be guided in the right direction. Now take this brain that has not evolved, unleash it into a world where she gets to make actual decision, and holy shit, she has a bank account and can even spend it. Now you have a disequilibrium in the force, and that's the unfortunate world in which we are.
That actually
Perfect.
kind of ties into something Jordan and I have talked about, how with the dating market being lopsided, because you almost have too many women out there making more money than women have ever made before, and they're looking for men who are equal, and that just doesn't exist.
Yes. Yes, because you have then, we're just beginning here with the uncontrolled, unlegislated female behavior. Now it goes in all direction, poofs. Now suddenly you're stuck with women who see ghosts in the wall and you have to respect them. You can't beat them down because family courts will come and say you're an oppressive male. So we are in the very, very dangerous world in which we've decided to believe women. And that is extremely dangerous because women have never been pushed to establish a link to reality. Now, the simps, this is their aquarium. This is where they're like a fish in the water in this world. Because not that they will win and not that they will gather reproductive success for themselves, but their behavior is perfectly adjusted to this world of self-delusion where Oh, well, a female can use you for 2 weeks to stroke her ego and to help her escalate the ladder of her own self delusion, of her own self perception.
while
And she
depleting
can
your
climb.
resources.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So all she has to have is a sugar daddy that she sees at a certain level. She sees that he has resources, and that sugar daddy can help her fix her ego or self estimation. And what you'll see is that females today are escalating over males. They're using each males as an opportunity to step up a ladder of social acceptance that they have inside of them. Very often, I've had women in my life that were absolutely at the bottom of the barrel psychologically and in terms of self confidence. They grab someone that they find attractive, that they find has something interesting to give them, and whether it's a simp or not a simp, both kind of males can help a woman feel better about themselves. But then the problem is once their ego has been stroked, they now perceive themselves higher on the social ladder and now see you as the simp or the beta that they didn't want to because their selves is not satisfied by this beta.
Yeah, this sounds like the phenomenon of famously of like fours and fives on Tinder or Bumble or something, getting this avalanche of positive feedback from men. You have a four or a five who thinks she can get, or not even get, deserves George Clooney or a Brad Pitt because she has gotten positive messaging on these dating apps. Um, so, okay, that's interesting. One thing that you said there that I wanted to kind of expand on a little bit was the pressure to procreate. So you said that in the past, women their behavior was restrained, and I don't want to misrepresent what you're saying, but do you think that a lot of that was it that in the past we'll just call it bad female behavior because that's just what we're seeing now. Bad female behavior would not lead to procreative success, basically. Is that what that is?
Well, it's not necessarily. I don't know if, let's say, the fundamentals of Islam in the way they treat women, I don't know if this was learned through hardship and hard experience. I don't know if there's a guy, 1,000 years ago before he made up the rules of Islam. I don't know if there's a guy who knew just how much heart wreck can happen from a crack whore. I don't know. Or maybe he just knew it instinctively, or whatever it is, it's clear that those who won, those who ended up creating enough descendant to cover the surface of the earth, had some mechanism by which they were call it forcing or call it drifting or pushing, by which they were pushing women to reproduce at young age, because that is the mathematics game that we're playing. I've made the case once on my show, and a clip has been retweeted recently about this, that you can go extinct even if you make two babies per couple forever.
Hmm.
And that's because if you make your two babies at 35 years old on average, while a competing society makes two, three babies, but they make it at 16-year-old instead of 35. What you have is a compression of the generations such that by the time you're at your grandchildren, they're at their great great grandchildren. And if you compress generations like this, you can completely overtake a population within a few hundred years if you just have the advantage of the age of reproduction. So it's not just about making babies in numbers, it's about when you make them.
Yeah.
That actually brings up an interesting point that we've talked about on here before and I'm interested in your opinion on it with your science background. It seems like y the age of girls going on birth control is getting younger and younger, and it has to have some effect on this from a physical standpoint, not even just social conditions. Do you think, or from your science perspective, how lethal is birth control pill to kind of what we're talking about here?
Well, I would say yes. I'm sure that if you put a million women on birth pills starting at 14 years old, you start having symptoms and you start having ovary cancers and other things that that you wouldn't have had down the line if you hadn't. Now, this is also a red herring and something we should not pay too much attention to. What we
Interesting.
should pay attention to is the babies that are not being produced. This is who's dying. This is the problem.
Mm,
And it's much worse that the woman couldn't have babies for 12 years because between 14 and 26 and 36 she took the pill. It's much worse
and
this than the fact that she has ovarian cancer at the end.
yes, and what I would say is that there's a dysgenic effect to birth control. Famously, there's a famous 4chan thread of a guy who worked in the UN Peace Corps, and he spent a lot of time in Africa delivering condoms to the Africans. And he said that he delivered condoms to the Africans and came back to the same village a year later. And they, instead of utilizing the condom for not procreating, they had the condoms hung up around their huts because, in the Africans' words, it would keep the pregnancy spirits out of the house. That is a this is a real 4chan post. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but he did a lot of work there, and he said that the Africans did not understand how to use the prophylactics, the birth control, the condoms. And I almost see a parallel there because what a lot of people say, and this is the argument that comes out when you talk about abortion, is they say that, well, morality aside, abortion has led to a lower crime rate than would be if there were more minorities born because those minorities would be committing crime. But the thing with birth control is that it's a complex thing to take. You have to take it at the right time. You have to use it the right way. And frankly, the higher IQ people, I mean, the white women who are taking the birth control religiously and set three timers on their phone and take it every day, they are using the birth control effectively. Shaniqua on the south side of Dallas, where I live, or and the south side of Chicago, is not taking birth control in that way. And I would probably argue the birth control is having next to no impact on the black community. And I'm not for that. I'm a Catholic. I'm stating what is, not what should be. And
Mhm.
I would probably argue that we can just use the black community as a stand-in, but I really doubt that birth control has had any impact. I doubt that it has had any impact on the black community versus the white community and the higher IQ that should be having the babies.
Well, you're absolutely right about IQ. It is higher IQ people are farming themselves out of humanity because they just have more discipline, more willingness to follow instructions, and they won't wrap the condom around their mud hut. And so, yes, it's a point. We're at a point where we are headed toward a society of intelligence, not 100 IQ, but rather maybe 90, 80 IQ average. And it's just because intelligent people they are disfavored by evolution in the current context. They are told to pursue university career, and because of the math that I explained earlier, if you just delay women reproduction by 10 years, you've totally killed civilization within 100 years.
Very well put. SW, there was a direction I wanted to take this, but was there anything you wanted to add on there or
No, that
ask
was
in the meantime?
actually pretty insightful.
Okay, awesome. Um, so as far as the simp, I think that did a great job of branching out a little bit from the original question. But as far as the simp, I kind of wanted to get your take on kind of what the scientific explanation for the pathology of the simp is. So
Mm-hmm.
I know you're not a psychologist. I'm not, I don't think you're out of your depth at all. I'm just saying I don't know that you're like a psychologist, but the pathology of the simp, it's always struck me as resource mentality. So the simp, I think, has a resource scarcity mindset where whether he was short or unattractive in school or didn't have the charisma that would lead to getting a date with the cute girl. He has the mindset that if he messes up, the girl will be gone. He has to maintain her, and he thinks the way to do that is to be nice. But fundamentally, it's a fear that that the thing he prizes, which is women in this case, will be gone if he doesn't behave the right way. Whereas the Chad, we can call it the simp and the Chad. I think the Chad has more of a resource abundance mindset where, when the bus leaves, there will be another one in 5 minutes, and it's not a problem for me. I kind of wanted to get your take on that and see if you had an explanation for, like, I guess just why simps exist. Is there a benefit for them in terms of procreation? And do you think that resource scarcity mindset versus resource abundance mindset is a good way of looking at it, or is that insufficient?
I would say it's a psychological way of looking at it. It may be valid psychologically, but I like to look at it always from a perspective of evolution. And from the perspective of evolution, you have to invoke the theory of imitable signals, the theory of baiting, and the fact that modernity has baited the simps. So first, you have to forget the idea that something is evolutionarily good or bad. It's evolutionarily good at a point in time and bad at some other point in time. Um, the the fact that food is attractive to a raccoon is something that's evolutionarily good, and it's been good. Now you have modernity, humans start covering the globe, they start being annoyed by raccoons, they make traps, and in these traps they put a banana or peanut butter to attract the raccoons, and suddenly the smell and the attractive smell of peanut butter, um, that was always good, suddenly it's bad, and it's bad because you've been baited. I believe that this is the framework through which we must understand simps. Simps, of course, the goal is to get babies. And if you were to simp to a woman 1 million years ago in the forest and there's no condom and no birth pill, I'm pretty sure you have a baby within 2 months.
Well, that's what I was going to say is that, and I'm sorry not to cut you off, but it sounds like there was an era, a time period where simping was beneficial, where it would lead to procreation. And actually not even a time that long ago, really. We're working with very short time frames here, even with how things have changed. Even 60 years ago, 70 years ago, if you were kind to the girl at school and brought her her favorite candy, she would be more likely to date you and say he's a swell guy. And
I
I'm going
feel
to
like it's
go out
even
and let
less
Absolutely.
than that.
sorry, what
And
was that?
if she
I feel
was
like
to let you be kind, if she was to entertain the relationship, you would get insemination within a couple of months.
As opposed to now where that is, well, and then it gets back to what you were saying earlier, it's modernity, because now that she can compare that to literally in some cases 100,000 other guys that are all offering her that piece of candy, and now she can make determinations about, well, they're offering me the same candy, but this guy works at JP Morgan and this guy works at Walmart. Okay, I'm getting your point. SW, what were you saying?
I was even gonna say you don't even have to go back 70 years. I feel like even in even into the 70s, and I know we talk about cultural changes of from the 60s that bled into the 70s and 80s. I feel like you could almost even just go into if you were in high school or in your 20s in the 70s, it was as easy as that.
Yeah, I mean, this is very recent. I mean, I guess I didn't have this question planned, but I guess my another question for you, JF, would be, um, I guess when did it change? So it, a lot of people like to say that it was the start of the women's rights movement, fundamentally. Um, I would largely agree with that, but I don't think you can ignore the tipping point of 2008 to 2010 with the advent of the smartphone. And I think the ability to have a supercomputer, and this isn't a brand new hot take, but the ability to have a supercomputer strapped to your hand and the advent of the dating apps, I think the dating apps, along with the smartphone, have dramatically impacted the birth rates and the rate at which this would change. So I guess I would ask you, like, when do you think it changed and why, I guess?
I'm sure that the internet, of course, technology has an asymmetric ratio effect. So, yes, if there's 10,000 Sims to one woman, that becomes dramatic. But I'm sure also that fundamentally all was put in motion way before, between the 1940s and the 1970s. And there are some mechanisms. Perhaps first you have World War II, which caused some males. And World War
Especially in
II
Europe.
also, yeah, also creates a situation where women who stay home are embarked onto the marketplace of employment. And there was a big push then to say, yeah, women work while their men go defend the nation out there. Now that embarks women on a career path, and that's the beginning of it. Then you have birth pill, gives more options of refusal. Then you have the whole culture of, take your time, don't marry, spend 10 years choosing your male. All of it is all delaying the moment of insemination, which is why I have a very radical personal life and method to fight against simping. It's called immediate insemination on site. At this point in my life, I demand that women take a commitment, that there be a date where we see ourselves for the first time and where we will inseminate without a condom at first sight. That is what I demand, and this is the anti-simp solution. It's the kryptonite of the simp. Immediate insemination, no time for betaing and showing love and displaying whatever. No, you go straight to baby making, and that's so much more primitive and close to what humanity was before that it actually activates a great couple dynamic and relationship.
I completely agree. That literally ties into what I asked you on Richard's show about a month ago. What that does is I mean, it doesn't even decrease, it eliminates the comfortable moment that you said for dating for women. Um, you put it perfectly. The dating moment has become too comfortable for women. It is literally a time for them to just extract resources and for them to build up their social capital, to flex their sexual market value, take pictures with a hot guy and show other guys that she's hot and desirable. It's like a game. It's just a self-sustaining game for no other purpose other than, I mean, literally, it sounds like a boomer, but there's no other purpose to it other than getting likes on Instagram, essentially. She's not doing it to procreate. She's not doing it because she has dreams of what her son may achieve someday. She's doing it for the sake of the status that it conveys. 100%. I hadn't heard you say
Absolutely.
that method.
And you cannot make the dating moment more interesting than the marriage because, or else you end up in infinite dating and never marriage or divorce. The problem is that the dating moment is a moment where the female has more opportunities to extract resources than the settling down. And that leads to marriages being unsustainable because now the woman expects to have at least as much resources as she was draining during the dating, but that was merely an artifice to impress her, to get her, to lock her down.
I feel like the wild card too is if you have a group of women who all get married, let's say one girl marries a guy who's like middle income and the other friends all marry higher income, the marriage is almost doomed for external factors because
Yeah.
she's going to see her friends.
It's unbelievable. One of the worst thing in the world these days is female social relationships.
Yes.
The
Yeah.
the network of information sharing is absolutely toxic. And it's like those are your competitors. You shouldn't listen to them. You should just try to do best.
There was a
And no, they listen to each other and they drag each other into divorce at an amazing rate. You'll always have, you can spot her if you have a wife and some women approach her, but I have experience helping females that have been abused. If you ever need to talk to me. Is your male controlling you too much? Those are dangerous people to have
Run,
around your wife.
literally
Yes,
run.
run.
There was a study I saw. I don't know if you've heard of this. This is perfect for that. There's a study among female hairdressers, female women who do other women's hair, not guys, but specifically female hairdressers. The more attractive a woman is, the more length they will accidentally cut off of the woman's hair. So a woman goes, I know, a woman goes to her female hairdresser and says, I just want 2 inches cut off. The more attractive the woman is, the more they will accidentally cut off. And then the woman has a chop, like her hair is up to her ears. They are, and I don't think women are even, maybe you disagree. I'm not sure what your take is, but I don't even know that the extent to which women are even able to spot predators like that. Are they even capable of saying this woman is my foe, essentially? This woman does not want me to procreate. She sees me as a threat to her possible outcomes. The hairdresser thing was like a huge red pill for me. I was like, women cut other women down, and I was like, yeah, they do. Yeah, yeah, they do,
I
even
know
when
I
it's
know
their
that
job.
very high intelligence woman is possible, and I because I am with one who can spot these predators and who can spot these other females trying to wreck your life, but it's very rare. My wife being my girlfriend being one of the only I know who can do that, who can spot dirty behavior on the female side. I think the rest of the female network operates on some sort of assumption of, well, even if they're trying to put sticks in my wheels, I can still benefit from their presence, from the kind of social nebulous that develops of some kind of an association between all females, which is a very feminist idea.
Yeah, yeah.
I know it's it's controversial. Like regardless of anyone's opinions on BAP, he had a really good take on this, where he was like, women are trying to operate as a group, and that's never really been as a collective group. But in no time in history have they ever been a collective group, and it serves them no benefit to It actually only serves them negatively to operate as a collective.
Yeah, and this is a big problem. It's that there is systematic defection on the side of females. You can have all of the low level females, they will get together, of course, in some sort of communist mindset, because they're the loser of any game where merit or beauty or intelligence gets evaluated. So you have the problem that the low level females are always into communism. But the higher level females, they are always systematically defecting, because if you're a 10 out of 10, beautiful, fertile, blonde woman, desirable on the market, why would you want the market to be messed by communists and by people who have a cult of ugliness when in fact you've already won by just how you look?
Yeah, I feel like you I think I've heard you say before that your girlfriend is Christian, right?
Yes.
Okay. Um, do you feel like that's maybe and I'm walking a fine line here because I'm a Catholic and I do believe in the tenets of Catholicism. Everything that goes along with that. But in terms of evolutionary psychology, do you think that Christianity or maybe just religion as a whole, a religious woman is an anecdote, or not an anecdote, an antidote um, to this kind of modernity? Because it sounds like the kind of woman that we're describing is deeply wrapped up in modernity. I'm thinking about my wife personally, and she's devoutly Catholic, and I just simply don't have those problems in my life. I don't have the nagging friend who's saying, he said what to you? He does this. Oh, I would leave him if that were me, I'd be gone. I just simply don't have that in my life. And I can't help but attribute that to the fact that she's a devout Catholic like me. Do you think that religion in women could be an antidote to that?
Definitely, but I don't know if it's a causal antidote. I don't know if
Mm,
religion is giving you something that you need to behave correctly,
it's that she
or
was
if religion is
selected
simply a
to
selecting, yes, a selecting force. So if religion is a selecting force, all that's happening is that it attracts the brains that are already healthy and already pre-programmed
a
to
good
act
point.
honorably. So that's my question, which is why I don't perceive me being an atheist and not believing in God. I don't perceive my atheism as necessarily contradictory with the appreciation of religion as a needed social signal for pre-selection of mates. I believe that ultimately the church may be kind of this dating place, this dating lounge where you have pre-selected 99% of the crap of society out already. If you can just ask to look okay on Sunday, I mean, a lot of people are unable to look okay on Sunday.
Much less show up on Sunday,
Yes,
much less live by the tenets of the Catechism of the Catholic Church. So
exactly.
yeah, that's a good point that it
So
may
then
not be the
these
causal.
signaling systems are like peacock tails. It's like obedience to God. Well, is it possible that obedience to God is a tool to show capacity for obedience? Like I'm going to create an entity that you can't even see, and I'm going to be obedient to it so that I can show you I can be obedient to you, my husband, in the future.
I that's fascinating. Yeah, I love that. Don't agree with you on the atheist part, but hey, that that's why we love JF, man. That's why we love you, man. Um, SW, did you want to go anywhere? Oops, sorry. There were two clips I wanted to take a look at. We have about 20 minutes left. Did you want to ask anything before we dig into
No,
two or three clips?
everything. I got nothing to add or interject in it.
All right, let's check out these two clips. The first one, um, I guess we could look at this one first. Hold on one sec. Sound optimized. There we go. So the first one I wanted to take a look at and get your take on JF and see if you think it's directionally correct is a clip from Nick Fuentes a couple weeks ago, maybe about a week ago, where he describes kind of the pathology of the simp, and I wanted to see what you thought about it. Um, SW and JF, obviously. If you want to jump in at any point, I'll probably only watch about a minute and a half of it, but I just kind of wanted to get your take on what you thought of this, JF.
We just can't let this our humor. We can't emasculate ourselves for their approval. That stuff really is poison. Like, this is no different than the kind of nice guy stuff. And there is something deeply cynical about the nice guy stuff too. It's always the nice guys that actually have the the anger, I play up the anger as a bit. I'm not an angry guy. It's obviously a joke. But the guys that really have the anger are the simps, the beta males. This is well known. The nice guys, those are the ones you worry about. And the reason being is because they are nice because of this rejection or this anxiety of a catastrophic rejection or ostracism. And so, like, the beta male's worst nightmare is utter rejection and no affirmation, no external validation. It's ruinous to their conception of self. And so that's why, there is this like really depraved, like, hunger, this like bottomless hunger underneath the surface of every beta male. Every beta male that's kind of going around like, hey, I'm just a sweet little guy. It is like this unquenchable desire for validation. And if that is off the table, they'll kill you. Like, they'll literally kill you.
He's right.
They're sick, vengeful
He's right.
people. Um,
Let's
those
see.
are the people you have to worry about. It's like Andrew Tate said, you can't trust people that are desperate. I trust are people that don't really need anything or don't really want anything. People that don't really care all that much.
Yeah, so let me stop sharing really quick. What any thoughts on that, JF? I was kind of
Well, I have lots of thoughts. It's very wise what Nick Fuentes is sharing there. That's true. First, there's three terms being used: beta males, simps, and nice guys. Those are different things. A beta male is when you say that a male is either beta or alpha, it's that they have an attitude with respect to dominance. And the beta male is merely someone who is not an alpha, who is not going to act in a domineering way or in a self-aggrandizing way in respect to other human beings, both male and females. So that's what a beta male is, and you can be a beta male without it being pathological. It's not necessarily bad to be a beta male. I turn out to be an alpha. It's an aspect of my psychology, but not everyone has to be an alpha. In fact, the ecological niche of alpha is unavailable for the most of humanity. So if, for example, you are going out there doing work, you're at the low level of a company, but you're a good worker and you're making money and you're protecting a family, but you're giving orders and controlling absolutely no one. That is a way in which a beta male can be non-pathological. Now, the nice guy is almost always pathological, and it's not a simp. The nice guy is a specialized form of simping, where he's looking for political, ideological validation in his ideas with respect to women. He's seeking a woman telling him, oh, how great is it that you are this or that. Typically, the nice guys, you'll see them in Antifa, and they'll be saying some communist stuff, or they'll be saying, kind of humorous commentary around abortion and trying to point out how disgusting it is that these Republicans don't want women to control their own body. That's the nice guy. The nice guy is seeking.
Had a domineering mother. The nice guy was devoured by his mother.
Yes, absolutely. Because the nice guy may have learned to become addicted to female validation by simply looking at mom. Okay. Absolutely. And if mom is not around a male that can keep her under kind of control, then her validation is all that there is in the world. And that is, then you don't have two poles for validation, and then you're only elevated in the female pole of validation. And the simp is what we've said. It's a more general family of behaviors that is asymmetric giving, basically, without taking. And by the way, when I say taking, the raccoon wants the peanut butter. The taking in the dating world is the production of a viable baby. There's nothing before that's worth anything. Mm-hmm. Social validation is worth nothing. Simping is worth nothing. Having cute words is worth nothing. Even sex is worth nothing these days. It is the production of viable babies. That's all that matters. So these three categories that Nick Fuentes is talking about, why would they be more violent? Well, they're the losers of the game. So what is society? Society is a monopoly game in which there are winners and losers. And the fact that society is held together is that the winners are powerful enough. Same thing in a bunch of monkeys. I was observing monkeys in my postdoc at Duke on an island. We had behavioral data from them, and there were at times revolutions. Revolutions in the dominant axis of the hierarchy of the island. So what happens systematically is you have alpha that are trying to keep their status, but it demands violence and it becomes too costly. And there's an infinite growth of the number of subordinates, and the subordinates are deprived of resources, deprived of access to females. Eventually, if the subordinates can generate enough violence, they can uproot the hierarchy and become the alpha by killing the alpha. That's why the alpha doesn't have an interest in killing. because words
No.
are his tools. He already has the domination of the world, the word game. He doesn't want to play the violent game because the violent game is a flip of the coin. But that very same flip of the coin that is disadvantageous to the alpha is advantageous to someone who already knows he has lost, because 50% chance of winning in a violent confrontation is
It's
better than
good
zero.
odds. That is good
Yeah.
odds. Wow. Wow. Man, this is why we had JF on. I hadn't even because I watched that clip and I was like, oh, I agree, and I still do agree with the Nick clip, but I hadn't thought of it as the nice guy, the simp, and the beta male being three different things. And you're spot on. The fact that beta male has a negative connotation attached to it today because it's in relation to the alpha. There's nothing fundamentally harmful about being a beta male. Some guys are betas, some guys are alphas. It is what it is. But like you said, there's nothing pathological about being a beta. It's like being born 6 foot or 5'10". It is what it is. Um,
Yeah.
but the pathological nature of the nice guy, and not just the nature of it, but the elevation of the nice guy, and the idea that he somehow is gonna, procreate by being a nice guy is what the problem is. It's the elevation, it's not the existence.
It
Um,
Yeah.
reminds me of the white knight thing I always talk about, how like if you're at a bar and there's a woman there and she's a drunken mess. She could walk up and punch a guy in the face, and but before the guy she punched even turns around, there'll be 4 or 5 guys having her back without even having any context. It's just like it's this kind of same concept. They live for the violence of it.
yeah, there was a clip. I'm gonna put you on your own interview, JF. You had a great clip here that I wanted to share, and that explains the white knight phenomenon. Here we go. Can you guys see my screen? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Involved in conflict. When you think about it, what democracy is eternal conflict. Democracy is a little bit like the male-female dichotomy in biology. The male-female dichotomy in biology has enormous cost. Most of the things you'll do in your life are meant to please a female for the purpose of breeding, and you don't even know. But the pursuit of social status, comedy, whether you're fun to hang out with, whether you're taking good care of yourself, whether you're shaving, whether you're being beautiful or trying to be, whether you're acquiring displays of wealth like cars and stuff, all of this is all the product. It's all a waste, and it's a waste that you're doing because you're trying to impress women. And even if you're past your dating life, you're still going to keep doing it because you're programmed as a machine to enact that waste.
Mm-hmm.
There would be much more efficient ways, but the female male dichotomy exists because that waste is still lower than it's still viable. You still have surplus energy to make babies after that waste, and so we're stuck with a race, with a runaway race, the same kind that built the tail of the peacock.
Thought that was very well put. And it really made me kind of reflect on like that's one of those clips that makes you think about your life. Like I was like, what the fuck, man, he's right, dude. Like, because like I said, I'm married. I have a 1 month old daughter. She was actually just baptized today. Um, and I'm just a moment of transparency here. It's not like I'm out there cheating as some philanderer and seeking out side girls or anything. Nothing like it. I'm happily married with a kid. But there's almost like a thing in your brain that guys can't, that either they're not aware of or just simply can't be aware of and can't overcome it. Where if a girl likes your post, you are naturally like, whoa, whoa, whoa there, whoa. Yeah. Did I make a good point there, my lady? You know what I mean? Like you can't and I'm not saying I actively do that. It's more subconscious than that. And what that is everything you just described in that video. What that is it's, hey, I could make more babies. And that's really what that is. And you can't really, I mean, you can override it, but the first step is acknowledging that it's there.
Oh yeah.
The people who don't acknowledge that it's there, that's how you end up cheating on your spouse. That's how you end up becoming a simp. You end up not knowing that it's there, and then everything you do is this performance to try to have sex. And what that desire to have sex is fundamentally, like you said, is a desire to have more babies. So, it's kind of like alcoholism or drugs. Like the first step is admitting that you have a problem. You know what I mean? So I don't know if that's a good enough analogy, but
Oh yeah. Uh, I agree. We should not pursue these parallel baby making stories. If you have the chance of having a wife who loves you, there's really nothing to complain about in the world, and you will be infinitely more productive in focusing on having many babies with her than you would shopping around for people with low principles, because inevitably cheating and adultery will lead you toward peoples of no morals, and that's a bad start.
absolutely. Very well put. And that actually that adds a level of kind of moral pragmatism to kind of what you talk about because, it in theory at least it may benefit you to have an affair and have multiple babies on the side, but that's where the moral and the pragmatic kind of collide, where it's like, do I really want to be out there, even if I could, would I really want to be out there attracting the kind of woman that's willing to destroy a marriage? That is
Yeah.
not somebody who would be beneficial to my life and could ultimately lead to me no longer procreating with my wife. So, I think those are the kind of considerations that people aren't really aware of that they need to think of, and that's a big reason why I thought it was important to have you on.
And
Um,
adultery, which is the default system right now, because I consider adultery anything that's outside of monogamy, including these women who jump from man to man one after the other. But this down the line, with the zero sum nature of availability of females, down the line, not only could you have ruined your own marriage, but you've also created a simp down the line. You've It's spotted like in
mm,
quantum physics, where you have these atoms, these particles that pop out from the background noise of the universe. By taking a female away from society for a moment, and by having two for yourself at a given moment, there's a simp out there who now has no females, and then we go back to what Nick Fuentes was saying, who will be driven to violence because he lost a game. So you may be creating not only an adulterer, maybe a low moral baby, but also perhaps a murderer.
wow, that's a great point. You are fundamentally taking somebody out of the game who may have been there for somebody else, and it's not like the Simps are
That's why
necessarily low
monogamy,
IQ.
monogamous marriage, is a social contract that shares the females in the most optimal way. And drifting away from this is the most stupid thing. And it may be a difference between the white and black population. If you think about what led black people to be more violent, from an evolutionary history perspective. Perhaps it's the fact that a polygamous world, and a world that is not founded in Christian marriage, will lead to so many losers that it becomes an evolutionary game to be a loser, to be at the bottom, no females to reproduce. Therefore, all I can do is kill whoever are the gangsters around me that get 5 or 6 females. And eventually I can be at the top again, just like the monkeys that are fighting for the alpha status.
I mean, SW and I have talked about this before. We can get into race. We don't have much longer. I didn't want to keep you for too long, but um, black culture, for all of its bluster and all of its, I would call it faux alphaism, is
It's actually very beta.
it's incredibly beta and it's incredibly gynocentric. You listen
Mm-hmm.
to these rap songs and you listen to these athletes say, Man, we got to help our mamas out." my mama raised me, my mama the best woman.
Yes.
I love my mama. But man, these men are the problem. These men is the problem. It's like you are fundamentally worshiping the vagina. You are worshiping mommy. And the violent behavior is almost an outburst of that. It is black violence is fundamentally feminine in nature. It is not we had a disagreement, let's square up really quick. And even that has its problems.
It's based on vague disrespect.
It's vague exactly. It's disrespect in the way a woman views disrespect. Oh, he looked at me the wrong way, time to kill his family. Like
Yes.
it's actually not that alpha to do that. It would be much more alpha to say, "Hey, do you have a problem with me? Why did you look at me that way? I didn't like that." That may sound feminine. You can tell that to a black person and they'd say, "That's how gay people talk." It's like, no, actually, that's the basis of civilization, and you're not a part of it. Um, so I completely agree that black culture is fundamentally feminine, actually, even outside of the bluster and the bombast. Um, yeah, there was one other video. Do you have about 10 more minutes, Jeff?
Sure.
Cool. There was one more video I wanted to look at. We looked at this last week actually with Spexo, but I kind of wanted to get a fresh set of eyes on it. Do you know, JF, are you familiar with Trent Horn? Do you know who Trent Horn is?
I've heard from him by Nick Fuentes, and I've looked into him a little bit with his wife nagging him and calling him gay.
There we
It's
go. Okay.
bizarre, very bizarre.
Okay,
I've
cool.
never seen this.
Okay, yeah, there's a video he released. It's only about a minute and a half. He released this last week, and here's the bizarre thing. He releases these videos very frequently, these type of videos defending women. Um, Spexo correctly pointed out last week, he said, who was asking for this? Nobody is saying, "Hey Trent, can you please defend women for me, man?" He's a Catholic. He's actually one of the foremost, one of the most prominent Catholic apologist. He does good work on that front. I'm not going to lie about the guy. He does good work with Catholic apologetics. But every week he's uploading these videos defending women, and it almost feels like his wife has a gun to his head saying, you better upload this video being nice." But I kind of wanted to get your take because the the Nick video analysis was perfect, and I just wanted to kind of see what you thought about this. And feel free to jump in at any point, but we can
Well,
check this
I
out.
need to
Oh,
jump
sorry.
in now
Yep.
because it's such a racial question that is underlying all of this. We just looking at his face. This is a Mediterranean type. It is not Western white Christianity. So there's something wrong here,
No,
just racially.
you
I
didn't.
don't know exactly where he comes from.
No, he's
Is it just
Jewish.
Italian?
No,
He's
JF, you're right.
Jewish.
He's
Okay.
Jewish. There you go.
Okay.
He is at there you JF uncovered the mystery within literally 1 second of looking at Trent Horn.
There was something wrong.
JF was like, "What is going on here?" And dude, he is ethnically Jew. He's
No,
Catholic, but
okay.
he is
Now I
ethnically Jew.
remember that
So he's a
perhaps
convert?
Nick has mentioned this in his show, maybe.
No,
But yeah, so
yes,
so
WD,
those
yeah.
people who convert toward Christianity, it is it is so bad to me because it messes with my whole theory of Christianity as being good as a selective antidote, as we discussed earlier. Because if people can start imitating Christianity without being it racially, I don't know that they're importing that much quality, and that deprives Christianity of the value of its own signal.
I mean, it's the same thing as that Nala Ray girl who converted to Christianity after being an OnlyFans girl.
Oh yeah.
It's a signal. It's a way, and in her case, it's a money-making scheme. But it's the same thing. You're not fundamentally Christian, and you're almost taking it on as a way to improve your brand or something at a deep genetic level. So, um, man, JF picked apart the mystery right away. But yes, he is ethnically Jewish. And dude, okay. Anyway, here we go.
I'm not hearing it.
Oh, my bad. Hold on one sec. Oh, sorry, I didn't share my screen. There we go. Sorry about that. Okay, here we go.
You'd be a lot happier in life if you just treated women like people. Blue, red, and black-pilled men don't treat women as persons or people. Simps and the blue-pilled treat women as precious resources to cowardly acquire. Red and black-pilled men treat women as morally inferior to men and only useful when they are exploited or insulted. But the manosphere treats women like how radical feminists treat men. They lump them together under ugly stereotypes and then blame all their problems on them. You'd be a lot happier in life if you just treated women like people. That just means recognizing there are good and evil women, just as there are good and evil men. Dating and romance for both sexes means being prudent, so you don't end up being stuck with an evil narcissist in your relationship, be she a woman or he a man. But it also means that both women and men need to be realistic in the expectations they have for a future spouse, and not hold out for someone who only meets an impossible checklist. This is especially true for women, because as they get older, the pool of suitable men to marry grows smaller, whereas the pool of younger women who also want to marry those men grows larger. You'd be a
So yeah, your thoughts, JF?
Oh yeah, I mean it is these minds I can't. They have a different mind, and when they take you through their own mind, and I'm sure he's expressing everything he actually believes
Oh,
in
totally.
here, but
Absolutely.
it's torturous. Like, it's painful for me to hear Jewish thought, because it's disorganized. It's based on all sorts of assumption. You should treat women like people. Well, are people worth treating like people? Like, because on average, I don't like people in general. Are you telling me I should not like women in general because I don't like people in general? It's not clear. And of course, this is all hidden in these kinds of phrasings. You should treat women like people is an assumption about the average people, that you should treat people individually on the basis of their individual merit. But the big lie behind this is that, well, we are all alike, and there's average behavior and there's average expectations that you can have
It's a
when you interact with a
fundamentally
modern woman. And if
fundamentally
I
liberal
deprive you
worldview.
of the ability of bigotry, if I deprive you of the ability of saying, you know what, if 95% of women act in that way, I want to be prepared against that way. Now, I know that there's 5% different women, but it doesn't matter. We still have to talk about the average expected behavior and how you will handle it. So Trent Horn and his critique of the red pill sphere has always been based on straw man, based on a misunderstanding of what has been said. And he doesn't really engage with the subjects. He just nags it and demeans it, which is exactly what women do.
Which is exactly what his wife does. And the irony of that video, and SW is the one who pointed this out, I think, was at one point in the video, he says, you need to listen to me or else you're going to be with a narcissist. Dude, look in the mirror, man. Like, you ended up with a narcissist who was bragging about being tempted to cheat on you on a podcast that 100,000 people listen to. You are it's like that movie. The call is coming from inside the house, Trent. So yeah, I think that you're totally right. And it also has racial parallels. It's the same thing as when, and this isn't groundbreaking, but it's the same thing as, you know, on a late night, I'm not going to walk past a group of three black guys with dreads and wearing a shiesty mask. But Obama exists. It's like, okay, I'm aware I exist. I'm aware of these. I'm aware that I am a person. That does not change the fact that statistically speaking, I should not walk past that group if I value my life. If I don't, or if I value something like being a nice guy or being considered a good citizen, then I will walk past them. If I disregard that feeling, then everything in my bones is telling me, do not do this, lest you end up dead.
Yes, nice guy is the term. And I would say that Trent Horn may be the archetype of the nice guy. He's doing a very, very elaborate and complex nice guying when he's taking the defense of women that way.
Very well put. Very well put. Um, Yeah, we've been going for an hour 10. There's more we could look at, but I think we struck the perfect balance here. SW, was there anything you wanted to add or ask JF? I think we're in a
Not
good
at
spot
all. I
there.
think this has been a great conversation.
Yeah, man. JF, I really appreciate you jumping on. Like I said, been following your work for a long time, have a lot of respect for you. And I think you laid out very succinctly what we talk about on the show. So, if you ever want to come on again, if there's I'll message you if there's, very good stuff we need to look at, and we'd love to have you on again, man. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yep. Have a good one, Jeff. And SW, we'll talk soon, man.
Sounds good.
All right. Have a good one.